I walk into this room, there he is, the final boss of the game. Literally blacked out, sighing and dropping my head along the way. Time went by, awkward silence continued, the hiring manager started to grow impatient. I have to say something. And I began speaking, blah blah blah, standard boring bullshit. The first thing he said was, "That's a great answer, the best I've ever heard in my life." Welcome to Pirate King. I'm Daniel, a software engineer at Microsoft, ex-software engineer at Amazon and eBay, and also a software engineering mentor at 2 educational startups. Here, we talk about tips and tricks on how to land a successful career in tech. In this video, I'm going to reveal my golden answer that mesmerized the hiring manager during my final interview at Microsoft. I immediately knew that I won him over in the interview because shortly after I delivered that finishing blow, the hiring manager asked, "When can you start?" The story doesn't end there. He liked me and my interview so much that he even directed the recruiter to offer me the maximum compensation for my level. Long story short, I'm going to unveil my secret weapon that helped me not only land the job at Microsoft, but walk away with a maxed out compensation package. Wondering what it is? Stay until the end to find out. Let me start by quickly giving you an overview of how Microsoft interview process looks like. Just like the typical big tech companies, Microsoft's job application process consists of 4 stages: application, technical phone screen, on-site interview, and the offer. I'm not going to say much about the technical portion of the interviews. I mean, what is there to say? It's just leak code. I'll emphasize, however, that I did clear every single technical round flawlessly, something that's not always easy to do with a tech giant, and something I was surprised myself. But because I did so well in the coding rounds, I was able to make bold moves during my final interview with the hiring manager, and later even on my salary negotiation. I honestly don't think I would have been able to do so had the odds not been in my favor. But you know how sometimes you feel that everything is simply working to your favor? Well, to my surprise, that lucky moment was none other than my interview with Microsoft. An interesting thing about Microsoft's final interview is that it can consist of either 3 or 5 rounds. The chances are you'll walk away without an offer if you complete only 3, and with an offer if you stayed for 5. It means if your first 3 interviews don't go too well, they may just say goodbye without completing the remaining 2. Take this information with a grain of salt, as this isn't official and things might have changed now, but it's something I learned from blind. So when I was asked to stay for 2 more hours after my third technical round, I instantly knew that things are indeed in my favor. Another interesting thing about Microsoft that I really love and is unmatched at any other workplaces is that you can get your own private office no matter your experience level. So walking into the building filled with hundreds of private offices and going into a room one by one for each of my interview was definitely an interesting experience. By the way, if you're interested in the strategies on how to ace an interview, click here. So my final round, I walk into this room, the private office of the hiring manager, where he greets me with a smile. He shows me a chair, I sit, I look up, and there he is, the final boss of the game. If I can only beat this guy, clear the stage, are the only thoughts in my head. I also noticed that he pulled out my resume on one of the 3 monitors on his desk. I could easily recognize it even from a distance because it was mine. So we started off by breaking the ice, the usual stuff. Then we talked a little about the previous technical rounds, how they were, how they went, what the most interesting question was, etc. Then he moved on to asking about my experience at Amazon. He was keen to hear about it because I started interviewing for Microsoft when I had worked for Amazon for only 8 months. I won't tell you the nitty-gritty details of why I decided to leave Amazon, but I did tell him that Amazon is a great company. They gave me free Starbucks coffee, a whopping $100 to spend on Amazon.com every year, and of course, free bananas. I could go on and on and on about how awesome Amazon is all day, but maybe later on a separate video. So I explained them all my reasons, why I decided to leave so early, why I think it makes sense to look for a new opportunity now. And after what seemed like a nod of understanding, he threw the big question. Where will you be in 5 years? I remember repeating the question myself, sighing and dropping my head along the way. Where will I be in 5 years? I mean, what kind of question is that? I honestly did not know what to say at that moment. I was literally blacked out. I mean, what would you say? Where will you be in 5 years? Where will you be in 1 year? The next month? Do you get what I'm saying? I don't even know where I would be a month from now, yet this guy was asking me where I would be in 5 years. I think I had my head down for more than 30 seconds, silent, squeezing my brain to come up with a good answer. At the same time, I was thinking, I'm almost there. And all that's remaining is beating this final boss. I just need to clear this stage and walk out. So my brain was jumping back and forth between this thought and the other. Time went by, awkward sounds continued, and I could see the hiring manager starting to grow impatient. I have to say something. It's then I raised my head back up and remembered that my resume is on the monitor behind them. I gazed into my work history, my entire career journey as a software engineer, where I worked, where I studied, what I did, my entire life adventure. It's at this moment something just clicked, and I began speaking. You know, let's not start by looking ahead, but instead by looking back the past 5 years. As you can see from my resume, I spent 2 years studying game development in Japan, another 2 working for eBay in South Korea, and less than a year working for Amazon in the US. When I graduated CMU, I thought game development was my thing, so I flew straight to Tokyo. But even I didn't imagine that I'd be getting my first full-time job at an e-commerce company, eBay, in South Korea. Then a few years later, I found myself flying back to America to join Amazon in Seattle. Another unexpected turn of events. And like what, only a few months after joining Amazon, here I am facing you in what Amazon might call an enemy of theirs, interviewing in the very headquarters of their competitor. Why would that be? Why am I jumping from place to place, a job to job, a country to country? I don't have an exact answer, but the number one thing that I ask when changing jobs is how much can I learn and grow from here? So back to your question of where I'll be in 5 years, I honestly haven't the slightest idea where I'll be or what I'll be doing. Whether it be a manager, a senior engineer, or something that's just completely random. But there's one thing that I know for sure, and that is, if there's a place such that the future me 5 years later looks back to the past me, and if that future me is able to say, boy, have I learned a lot since then. Man, have I become a better, a greater person since then. If there's such a place that I can say that, I'll be there. So, I don't know about you guys, but I could definitely see that the hiring manager really liked my answer. Because the first thing he said was, that's a great answer. Probably the best I've ever heard in my life. Then he began explaining why my answer was unique compared to others. He said that it's his favorite question that he always asks the candidates, and most of them answer by saying something like, I will have become a well-respected manager, a senior engineer with in-depth engineering expertise, a technical leader setting example, blah blah blah, you know, standard boring bullshit. He then talked about how he usually expands onto their answers. Why will you have become a manager? Why would you be a senior engineer? What makes you say that you'll become a leader? The list can go on and on and on until the 1-hour interview time clock expires. However, for him, my answer was definitely outside the norm, and he didn't even find the follow-up question necessary. So he spent the remaining 30 minutes trying to waste time by asking random questions because he expected that question to be his last. Well, who's unprepared now? So I remember spending the last 10 minutes talking about how soon I can start and what working at Microsoft will be like and stuff like that. Anyways, time eventually came and my interview ended. He walked me out the building, promising to get back to me in the next day or two. Another promising sign when it comes to interview results, because companies purposely wait a week to notify rejections out of courtesy. So my recruiter did get back to me in 2 days. It was a Friday afternoon. I remember it because I spent my weekend free and happy. She explained that my scores for all my interviews are very high, the hiring manager really liked me, And after a few calls back and forth negotiating my salary, she extended an offer with the highest compensation package the company allows for my level. The rest is history. So, how's my story? It might have looked like I'm showing off again, but I can honestly say that I'm not. In fact, I've never revealed the story to anyone other than my family, but I decided to share it with you because I believe there is a value to it. Where will you be in 5 years? I didn't really like the question at first, but now that I think about it, not only is it a great interview question, it also is a great philosophical life question that we should all be asking ourselves every day. Where will you be in 5 years? How will you answer it yourself? From my experience, one of the best ways to answer an open-ended question is by giving an open-ended answer. Remember, I haven't the slightest idea where I'll be in 5 years, but if there's a place that will help me become a greater person, that's where I'll always be. So what do you guys think about my answer? Do you think it's really golden? Or not really? Or something in line of, it's good, but nothing like amazing or mind-blowing? Let me know in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe if you want more videos like this. Coming up next is how to effectively prepare for LeetCode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.